On March 14th, 2025, a woman in her late 40s pulled into my shop with a question that had been bothering her for months. She was not there for an oil change. She was not there for a check engine light. She was there because her husband's identical car, same model, same year, same engine, was somehow getting almost 40% better gas mileage than hers. She had taken it to 2 dealerships. Both told her nothing was wrong. Both charged her diagnostic fees. Both sent her home with the same problem. Today, I am revealing why this happens constantly, and more importantly, the free tricks that can dramatically improve your fuel economy without replacing a single part. I have been a mechanic for over 2 decades. In that time, I have watched thousands of dollars slip through drivers' fingers simply because no one ever taught them the truth about fuel efficiency. The industry does not want you to know these methods. They do not sell parts. They do not generate labor hours. They do not fill appointment books, but they work, and they work consistently. That woman I mentioned earlier, she drove away an hour later with the same car, the same engine, and the same tank of gas. The only difference was knowledge. Her fuel economy improved by over 30% within a week. Not because I fixed anything, because I taught her what mechanics rarely explain. Here is the uncomfortable reality that nobody talks about. Your car's fuel economy is not fixed. It is not determined solely by the EPA sticker on the window or the engine under the hood. Fuel economy is a living, breathing measurement that changes based on dozens of factors, most of which are completely within your control. The problem is that most drivers treat their car like a vending machine. Put gas in, get miles out, repeat. They never realize that the way they drive, the way they maintain their vehicle, and even the way they load their trunk can swing their miles per gallon by 30%, 40%, even 50%. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology conducted a study that should have made headlines. They found that aggressive driving behavior, the kind most people consider normal, can lower fuel economy by 15 to 30% on highways and 10 to 40% in stop-and-go traffic. Think about that. The same car, the same engine, the same route, losing nearly half its efficiency simply because of how the driver presses the pedals. And this is where it gets interesting. Because the solution is not a magical additive. It is not a new air filter. It is not a fuel system cleaner from the auto parts store. The solution is understanding how your car actually works and adjusting your behavior accordingly. That is what separates drivers who complain about gas prices from drivers who barely notice them. Most people have no idea how much fuel they waste every single day. They think their driving is normal. They think their car is just thirsty. They think better mileage requires a newer vehicle or a hybrid or some kind of miracle. The truth is far simpler and far more frustrating, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And once you understand it, you will wonder why no one ever told you sooner. The first trick is so obvious that most people overlook it entirely. Your tires. Right now, there is a good chance your tires are slowly draining your gas tank without you knowing. The U.S. Department of Energy studied this extensively. They found that for every 1 pound per square inch that your tires are below the recommended pressure, you lose about 0.2% of your fuel economy. That does not sound like much until you do the math. Most drivers run their tires 5 to 10 pounds per square inch below the recommended pressure. That translates to a 1 to 2% loss, constantly. But it gets worse. Oak Ridge National Laboratory conducted a more aggressive test, when tires were inflated to only 75% of the recommended pressure. Fuel economy dropped by 2 to 3% across all speeds. At 50% inflation, the penalty climbed to 10% at lower speeds, 10% of your gas gone because of air pressure. The Department of Transportation estimates that underinflated tires waste approximately 5 million gallons of fuel every single day in the United States. Every day. That is not a typo. And the fix costs nothing. A tire pressure gauge costs a few dollars. Most gas stations have free air. The correct pressure is printed on a sticker inside your driver's door jamb. Yet most drivers have never checked it. Most drivers have no idea their recommended pressure even exists. They assume tires are fine if they look fine, but tires can be 10 pounds per square inch low and look perfectly normal to the naked eye. Here is what is actually happening inside an underinflated tire. When pressure drops, more of the tire's surface contacts the road. That creates friction. Friction creates resistance. Resistance forces the engine to work harder. Working harder burns more fuel. It is physics, not opinion, and it is costing you money every single mile. But there is another factor hiding in plain sight: your driving speed. Every driver has heard that speeding wastes gas, but almost nobody knows the actual numbers, and the numbers are shocking. Consumer Reports tested this directly. They measured fuel economy while driving at steady speeds of 55, 65, and 75 miles per hour in both a Nissan Altima and a Toyota RAV4. Reducing speed from 65 to 55 miles per hour improved fuel economy by 6 miles per gallon in the Altima and by 8 miles per gallon in the RAV4. Going from 65 to 75 miles per hour cost almost 7 miles per gallon in the Altima and 6 miles per gallon in the RAV4. Read that again. The difference between 55 and 75 miles per hour is not a few percentage points. It is the difference between a fuel-efficient car and a gas guzzler. Same engine, same vehicle, just speed. The federal government's fuel economy website puts it another way. They say that for every 5 miles per hour you drive over 50, it is like paying an additional 21 to 27 cents per gallon of gas. At today's prices, that adds up fast. A 20 mile per hour difference in highway speed can cost you the equivalent of $1 or more per gallon. Every single fill-up. Why does this happen? Aerodynamic drag. Air resistance increases exponentially with speed. At 55 miles per hour, your engine is mostly working against rolling resistance. At 75 miles per hour, more than half of your engine's power goes to pushing air out of the way. You are literally burning fuel to move air instead of moving your car. This is also why cruise control matters more than most people realize. Studies have shown that varying your speed by just 6 miles per hour every 18 seconds can increase fuel consumption by 20% just from inconsistent throttle input. Cruise control eliminates that variability. It maintains a steady speed, and it prevents the unconscious acceleration and deceleration that happens naturally when a human foot is on the pedal. Edmunds found that cruise control can improve fuel economy by 7 to 14%, depending on conditions. And here is the part that trips up most drivers. Cruise control works best on flat terrain. On hilly roads, it often makes things worse because it fights too hard to maintain speed. It accelerates aggressively uphill and brakes unnecessarily downhill. Skilled drivers can actually beat cruise control in those conditions by letting speed drop slightly on inclines and regain naturally on descents. The key is consistency, not rigidity. Now let's talk about the weight in your trunk. Because that 50-pound bag of road salt from last winter, those golf clubs you have not touched in 6 months, that random box of whatever you keep meaning to unload, they are all costing you money every single mile. The Environmental Protection Agency says that every 100 extra pounds in your vehicle reduces fuel economy by 1%. For smaller vehicles, that penalty can climb to 2%. 1,000 extra pounds, that is 10 to 20% worse fuel economy, just from weight. Here is what that looks like in practice. Gasoline weighs about 6 pounds per gallon. A full 20-gallon tank weighs 120 pounds. Some hypermilers actually keep their tanks half full to save weight. That sounds extreme until you realize that over a year of commuting, it adds up to real money. Is it practical for everyone? No. But it illustrates just how sensitive fuel economy is to every pound your engine has to move. The fix here is simple. Clean out your car, remove the roof rack when you are not using it. Consumer Reports tested this too. Carrying 2 mountain bikes on the roof dropped fuel economy by 13 miles per gallon in the Altima and 7 miles per gallon in the RAV4. A rooftop cargo box cost 9 miles per gallon in the Altima and 5 miles per gallon in the RAV4. That is not a small penalty. That is transformational. If you have a roof rack, bike carrier, or cargo box mounted permanently, you are paying for it at the pump, whether you are using it or not. Aerodynamic drag does not care about your intentions. It cares about what is physically on your roof. Remove it when you do not need it. Period. But the most powerful fuel-saving trick involves something most drivers never think about: their right foot. Aggressive driving, like jackrabbit starts and hard stops that feel normal to most people, can destroy fuel economy. The Department of Energy quantified this. Aggressive acceleration and braking can lower gas mileage by 15 to 30% at highway speeds and 10 to 40% in stop-and-go traffic. 40%. That means 2 identical cars on the same road can have radically different fuel consumption based solely on driving style. One driver coasts to red lights. Another accelerates hard and brakes late. Same car, same road. 40% difference. The physics behind this are straightforward. Accelerating requires energy. Braking wastes that energy as heat. Every time you speed up just to slow down, you are converting gasoline into nothing. The energy you paid for at the pump literally disappears into your brake rotors. This is why hypermilers, the people who obsess over fuel economy, practice techniques like pulse and glide. They accelerate to a target speed, then coast with minimal throttle until they slow down, then repeat. Studies have validated this approach. It can save up to 20% fuel compared to constant speed driving. Now, I am not saying you need to drive like a hypermiler. Most people will not. But understanding the principle changes behavior. If you know that every hard acceleration costs you money, you start to ease into the throttle. If you know that braking wastes energy, you start to coast towards stoplights. Small changes accumulate. Here is a trick almost nobody knows: idling. For modern fuel-injected vehicles, idling for more than 10 seconds uses more fuel than shutting the engine off and restarting. 10 seconds. That is it. Argonne National Laboratory tested this directly. The Environmental Defense Fund puts it bluntly: idling for just 10 seconds wastes more gas than restarting the engine. Idling also does not warm your engine effectively. The best way to warm a modern engine is to drive it gently. The engine reaches operating temperature faster under load than it does sitting still. Yet millions of drivers idle their cars for minutes at a time in the drive-thru, waiting for kids at school or warming up on cold mornings. Each minute of idling burns a quarter to a half gallon per hour, depending on engine size. Ford Motor Company recommends turning off the engine when stopped for more than 30 seconds. Not minutes. Seconds. This is also why modern cars come with automatic start-stop systems. They shut the engine off at traffic lights and restart instantly when you lift your foot off the brake. Automakers would not include this technology if it did not save fuel. It does, significantly. Now let us address a common question. Does eco mode actually work? The answer is yes, but not in the way most people think. Consumer Reports tested this and found that eco mode by itself provides modest savings, maybe 1 to 3 miles per gallon in city driving. The real value is behavioral. Eco mode dulls throttle response. It encourages gentler acceleration. It trains drivers to adopt habits that save fuel even when the mode is off. The European eco-driving studies found that training programs can reduce fuel consumption by 10 to 20% or more. Not because of technology, because of technique. Eco mode is essentially a built-in training tool. It is most effective when used to learn better habits, not as a permanent crutch. Here is the truth that mechanics do not advertise. Everything I have described so far is free. Checking tire pressure costs nothing. Slowing down costs nothing. Removing unnecessary weight costs nothing. Avoiding aggressive acceleration costs nothing. Turning off the engine instead of idling costs nothing. Letting cruise control maintain steady speed costs nothing. Yet these free methods combined can improve fuel economy by 30%, 40%, even 50% compared to how most people actually drive. That is not marketing. That is physics and verified research. The woman who came to my shop that day, her problem was simple. Her husband drove like fuel mattered. She drove like it did not. Same car, same engine, same jeans, different wallets. I see this constantly. Drivers who blame their vehicle, drivers who blame gas prices, drivers who blame the oil companies. And yes, all of those factors matter. But the single biggest factor in fuel economy is the person behind the wheel. That is you. And here is the part that should make you angry. The automotive industry knows all of this. They have known for decades. But teaching you to drive efficiently does not sell parts. It does not fill service bays. It does not generate revenue. So they stay quiet. They let you believe that fuel economy is fixed, determined by engineers in a factory outside your control. It is not. It was never. The next time you fill up your tank, think about where that money is actually going. Some of it moves your car forward. Some of it heats your brakes. Some of it pushes air out of the way. Some of it sits in your idling engine going nowhere. Some of it drags weight you forgot was even there. You cannot control the price per gallon, but you can control how many gallons you use. And once you understand these tricks, once you actually apply them, you will never look at your fuel gauge the same way again. If this changed how you think about fuel economy, hit the like button so more drivers can see it. Subscribe if you want more content that puts money back in your pocket instead of the shops. And drop a comment telling me what fuel-saving trick you are going to try first. Because the most expensive fuel is not the gas that costs the most per gallon. It is the gas you burn without realizing it. And now you have the knowledge to stop that waste for good.